Good afternoon, fellow alumni, our faculty and staff, our President, Dr. Teodoro Robles, and our members of the Board of Trustees, headed by Attorney Yvonne Lovell Bidona. And of course, to all our chapters worldwide, we are pleased to have you this afternoon, somebody who is an achiever, a Centralian alumnus, outstanding alumnus. He is into government service, and actually he has been a recipient of several awards with regards to the health program of the city government. Am I right, sir? No other than Mr. Inigo Garingalao. I was tempted to call him doctor because he has influenced even myself. Honestly, I was one of those who have been influenced by the anti-smoking campaign of this gentleman. He hails from La Paz?
From Haro.
Haro.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he is an alumnus of the engineering department.
Agriculture
Engineering. And I would cite to you the 3 awards, which is very outstanding, really, to the minds of all the Ilonggos and Iloilo City. He has brought honor and dignity to the community, and of course, to a lot of smokers like me before, who has changed for the better. One is that he received in 2018 a Dangal ng Bayan National finalist, or he is a finalist of the Dangal ng Bayan National Awards in 2018, and this is validated by and conducted by the Civil Service Commission. The second is that he received the Presidential Lingkod Bayan Regional Award in 2019. And for us here, I think it's twice that you were given a CPU Outstanding Alumni Award, sir.
Yeah, 2014.
And that's in 2014 and 2018. And now, for 18 years, he has achieved the Red Orchid Awards. This is given to local governments who has achieved a very laudable project, such as the Iloilo City Anti-Smoking Task Force, and this is the Smoking Campaign Project. So allow me to introduce Mr. Inigo Garingalao, sir. Would you like to give us a brief of your life here in the city and in your work?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Inigo Garingalao, high school 78 CPO DHS graduate. Of course, I've been here since I was in kindergarten. And I'm the director of the Iloilo City Anti-Smoking Task Force. I appreciate that work as a program and as an advocacy. It's not just work to be handled, but it is an advocacy. So through the years, we have achieved many things. Of course, we have also failed in many things. Iloilo City anti-smoking wise is a work in the making. And for me, being a Centralian has helped a lot. It just underlines that if you put a Centralian in an advocacy such as this, he makes changes.
I understand, sir, that this is not an easy job or a task in the task force. Of course, this is in fact perceived to be something which is very risky on your part as the head of it. So how would you introduce to us the ICAST organization that you are heading now?
The Iloilo Anti-Smoking Task Force, of course, has risks of its own. And when we are talking about anti-smoking, usually what comes in the mind of people is the apprehending of smokers and facing the tobacco industry, which is, of course, part of it. So you just have to train people for it. You just have to know where you're coming from. Of course, we are backed by the law. And you have to make programs, awareness programs about this. Yes, of course, it changes your life, the way you perceive the vice, which is eating up a huge part of resources of people and is imperiling the young. Even the World Health Organization has coined it as a global tobacco menace that is also here now in Iloilo City. So it has its inherent risks, which of course you can mitigate, but then for me, important health issues are the foremost for this advocacy.
Can you tell us about your experience as a smoker before, sir?
I also delved on smoking when I was in the high school and elementary. Of course, all of us here around the perimeters of Central Philippine University, we were on the time in a generation when it seems to be a right of manhood when that one has to pass before being called a man. No? You try smoking, but of course it didn't really become a habit for me. I was in sales and all around me is smoking, so I also tried at the time, no, to while the time away while smoking. It enhances. I was thinking that it enhances your thinking while doing your report when you smoke. But after a while, I distanced myself from it when I saw relatives getting ill from it, and I also saw it as an expense. And at the same time, of course, my fiance at the time doesn't want to kiss somebody who smells like an ashtray, and that of course helped. So and then
So how were you inspired to join the advocacy of anti-smoking?
when I retired from sales, I have this thinking that I would give some of my expertise to the city government. So when I applied to city government, I was on the mind that I want to be assigned in the city environments office because I'm an agricultural engineer, and at the same time I have 30 units in environments, and I was at the time starting to take from CARES CPU solid waste management. So they gave me that. I was disappointed. I want to admit it. That I was disappointed at the time when they gave me the anti-smoking job, which is actually in the city hall was a hot potato position, meaning nobody wants to handle it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to handle it. They perceive it as dangerous, as unpopular, and as something that it's not really important. But then, at the time, I was also schooling as a lay pastor. I brought it to the church. I am with Hara Evangelical Church, by the way. So when I brought it to the church, Mami Bensuceso, you may know her. She's the first woman ordained pastor of the evangelicals. She told me this is very important. And she called everybody. I was a little embarrassed then, to pray over for Inigo because he has an important job. So right there and then, I have this feeling. At the time, it's not as clear as now that this is something very important. It's the taking care of the body which the Lord has given us. So that spurred me to
Mr.
go on with
Garingalao, I
advocacy.
recall your father was a strict law enforcer.
Yes, he is.
Colonel or
Colonel Joel Garingalao.
Colonel
He
Joel
retired as
Garingalao,
colonel,
yeah.
actually.
I remembered him. In fact, we were also afraid every time we were smoking outside. How did your father influence your spirit on
Well,
this?
Tatay was, he was even dubbed as Sergeant Opus at the time. He hated smoking, and I was a little intrigued about it because the Garingalaos, most of them are seafaring persons and soldiers. And of course, we can surmise that they also smoke. But he was not smoking, and he hated smoking. And at the time, there was an ordinance, a very limited ordinance, at the time of Mayor Ganson, that prohibits smoking in public utility vehicles. So every time he sees somebody smoking in public utility vehicles, he admonishes them. Even he gets them and
Yeah.
and throws it out, no, which earned him the ire of smokers and drivers. At the time, it was a one-man crusade for Tatay. I found out that it was a lonely job. Good for me now that I have this task force and I have the backings of DOH and the city government. At the time, it was a lonely job for Tatay. And that also, yes, it added to my inspiration to add to what he has started and to inspire others to take care of their body and to enhance this advocacy, which he started in a very modest way.
Would you like to give us, and especially our audience, viewers, the youth and the students, would like to give us some of the ingredients of this dreaded practice, the smoking, or the cigarette itself? What are the ingredients that you most probably can give us why it is so deadly?
It is said that is validated by medical persons all over the world, by 175 nations and even the World Health Organization, that the cigarette has at least 5,000 chemicals in it, no? Especially the rolled and the manufactured kind.
Oh.
And 70 of which is carcinogenic, especially if taken again and again and again, no? in varying degrees. There are just three ingredients that I would like to point out. One is, of course, the nicotine. That is the addictive part of the cigarette, which gave you cravings to have that clarity feeling, that feel-good feeling that goes to your brain when you smoke it. That is the nicotine. No? The second is the carbon dioxide. Of course, it is combustible. You light it, and then you smoke it. No? Actually, we were joking that if the tricycle emits carbon dioxide, why not make it cheaper and just inhale the tricycle fumes from its muffler? And the third is the tar. No? As one person smokes, that black sticky thing, it accumulates in your respiratory system, especially the lungs. And then, of course, it results to cancer, and that kills people. There are a lot more. We would need a medical person to do that. But that's the most basic thing for one to know about the smoking habit. And the other is, it is not only the one smoking who is affected, but also the recipients of the second-hand smoke or the second-hand environmental smoke. Meaning, when one puffs a cigarette, the one around the room inhaling the cigarette smoke gets affected. Now, you're not talking only of adults, you're talking about children. You're talking of babies who are around the vicinity of the one smoking. And it is also a reality that there is such thing as the third-hand smoke.
Yeah.
Meaning it's the smoke of the cigarette that embedded itself to the curtains, to your clothes, and to the ceiling. And when the air conditioner or the ceiling, the fans are activated, the chemicals also goes around and goes to the nasal system of the person and are inhaled.
How were you able to stop your smoking, sir? You mentioned a while ago you were smoking while you were young.
Well, I'm a Centralian. I play football, and there was a time when I was climbing the stairs, and I found out that I cannot climb three rungs, and I was catching my breath, and I was angry with myself for doing that. Because when I was playing football, you can run around this oval for 12 rounds every day, and you're still okay. So that's one. So I went back to walking. Every time there is a craving, I took in cold water and then walk around. And I also found out technically that cravings comes to you in a 10-minute interval. So every time there is a craving, I drank water and walk around. And eventually, I stopped for about a month, about 2 months, and then 5 months, and then there was no craving at all anymore.
You mentioned earlier about the ingredients that makes the cigarette smoking a very deadly thing. Is it
Yes, again.
really banned with regards to the cause, the deadly factor there?
Actually, vaping is another topic. It's a long topic actually, but technically, vaping is when you say vape or the act of inhaling that is
You cover that.
vape.
You
Yeah,
cover
we
that.
cover that. I discussed it actually with the junior high school students of CPO in yesterday's convocation. Technically, it is called electronic nicotine delivery systems or ENDS. So vape in the street language. They found out that in vaping, the ingredients in vaping, people would always say that it's vapor, it's flavored water. But if you analyzed it, one, it's not water vapor. It is aerosol. You are inhaling aerosol. Second thing is that you should understand about vaping. Almost all the ingredients in the cigarette, they also have in the vape. Although it is on much lower concentration. So the next phrase that you should put in mind is least hazardous doesn't mean safe.
Yes, sir.
So meaning if the vape has is least hazardous, it's still not safe. But the one of the most one thing that we have to watch out is that big companies, big cigarette companies at that, bought huge shares of the vaping industry now. And they will be the ones pushing that. We know cigarette companies, they have lots of money, pushing that and trying to play down the cigarette industry. So they can say that, we found out that cigarettes are very dangerous. That's why we are minimizing it gradually. But then here is the alternative. Vape sometimes is being introduced as something, an alternative that will gradually decrease your cravings for nicotine. But the amazing thing is, why are they targeting youth on that?
Well, I am also amazed about this announcement that is dangerous to health all over in all packs of cigarettes. What is your comment on that? How does that affect the development of cessation?
There are two things about warnings. One is you call those as just warnings, and the other is graphic health warnings. So warnings that are just written or printed, actually that doesn't help much. What people want is a graphic health wherein truth in advertising comes in, the result of the cigarette. But it's just one measure of mitigating, of showing the would-be smokers that will happen to you, and making the hardcore smokers think more of quitting. But it's just a measure. When you talk about quitting or going into cessation of smoking, a lot of factors comes in. The price, the social issues, like people doesn't want to go near
Are you aware,
smokers.
Mr. Garingalao, that this smoking is dangerous to your health and other announcements are kind of a reverse psychology that which the industry is using.
That's one.
Because they know that Filipinos have this big head, you know. I mean, the more you, you tell him not to, the more they are really drawn into it.
Well,
So,
that's one. That's
can you
one.
observe? Did we already have the results of how it really affects anti-smoking, or how does it influence stopping cigarettes?
Outrightly, if you ask me, but it's also in the articles of the Framework Convention for Tobacco Control of World Health. Uh, Written warnings are of no use, especially in here in the Philippines. If you say smoking is dangerous to your health, could people in the mountains understand that? Could people in the
No,
various
and even these
understand that?
people, even these people in the city, we saw the personal they buying this one baston. What is this?
Ah.
One pack. How many packs in one baston?
We call that tingi-tingi.
Tingi-tingi,
Those are 20 sticks
But
per...
now we still even see
Ah.
people going to the supermarket buying one baston of this Marlboro, just to mention a few. So, what is your parameters in your ICAST campaign with regards to this flagrant violation of, but let us say, a social moral thing?
It depends on... ICAS runs on what is in the law, in the ordinance. In other places, it's prohibited to sell in sticks.
Oo.
But we have not adopted that yet here in Iloilo City. There are places that it is prohibited to sell in sticks because the graphic health warning is thrown away. No, it cannot be seen by people. But lately, the Department of Health is pushing that, just like in other places and other countries, when you buy cigarette, it should be in packs and it should be in rims. So it's still in the offing, and it depends on the local ordinance. We do have independence in doing partly independence in doing our ordinances, but in Iloilo City we have yet to adopt that.
One of our findings in the research is actually that you see this big billboards has already been removed and it's already bawal, di ba? How about this thing called depression, loneliness, problems? Are these some of those factors that really compel the smokers to still buy these cigarettes?
Well, they said it is because addiction is also a mental thing.
Yeah.
And when you are dependent on a substance, it does something to you if that is taken away. That is why one has to go to the cessation clinic to substitute it like what I did with water, exercise, and a support group that monitors your quitting actions and activities, and don't just leave you thinking about it like you lost something, because of course it may go down to the depression part, but that will be talking about mental health, of course.
I would like to verify if what my doctor said was true, that when you stop smoking, there is an effect in your health, right? Maybe it's congenital, or what is this term? This the one that you feel like you're short of breath. What is that?
Yeah, that's also one. Actually, it encompasses many things. It's psychological, it's physical, it's many things. When one is undergoing a quitting activity or counting the days for which one has quit cigarettes, especially if you have used it for a long time. For one, there is dependence. For two, your organs has already been so used of you exposing them to the chemicals. Of course, there are things that you will feel. No? Some gets to feel like they are having fever. Others are feeling like they lost something.
What is the COPD?
COPD in layman's term is, of course, you doctors out there knows more of this than me. COPD in layman's term is that your lungs is now incapable of capturing oxygen or O2. So the worst kind, which I also saw some of my friends who are business people who were now saying that Sir Inigo, what you told me long time ago is this, no? My companion now is an oxygen tank because their lungs is incapable of capturing the oxygen which they inhale. So, in a nutshell, that is COPD.
It was some...
Chronic, obstructive,
okay.
pulmonary
Disease.
disease.
Because it was some kind of 7 years ago, which he told me, my doctor, that the regular health that you used to have when you were not smoking before would be in 10 years. Is that so?
Because you have exposed your lungs to so much cigarette smoke and what we're talking a while ago about tar, that it takes time for your system to expel it. Of course, there are instant or outright things that you will feel, positive things like you might feel, like your breathing becomes normal after a few hours. Some of the nicotine goes out of your system after a few hours, and after days, or after weeks, your taste buds, your taste returns, like those things. But things like tar in your lungs, it takes time to be expelled.
But I'm thankful to God that I've already returned to that normal thing before I started smoking in college.
Okay.
When we were going to engineering, right, before.
Of course, you have also to support your body.
Yes,
like
of course.
you have to exercise. Of course, you have to also watch out what kind of exercise you will be doing. You have to eat well, of course, nutritious things in support to your quitting.
What are your facilities being extended to this? Well, let's be honest. These are a poor people's pastime, smoking, right? So, what are your facilities that assist, that helps this? Well, maybe they're poor or rich, but that assist the smokers, the hardcore smokers, sir.
Mayor Jerry Treñas is a hardcore smoker. He's a 5-pack a day smoker.
Until now?
And he has quit for
quit
about
already.
7 to 8 years now. So he understands how hard it is to quit and how hard it is to maintain quitting. So he is supporting the smoking cessation clinic of the city health office, wherein you can get brief interventions and counseling as you go through your quitting activities. And then he has made this open also to the districts, wherein one can just go in and then enroll himself to the smoking cessation therapy. So that's one. Another is we are open, of course, to the... That is why we have these Zumba things in our plaza.
Zumba.
So that one can get physical about it, because getting physical is a sure way of also quitting. As you get to feel better, as you sweat, as you get feel more healthy, you're more prone not to smoke.
How did you look at the youth, the students? Do you think they're more vulnerable than the old people, than the adults?
The youth, no, especially the younger ones, in the smoking environment, for advocates like me, we look at them as the marginal sector of the anti-smoking advocacy, wherein we have to concentrate a huge part of our resources to them.
Yeah.
For one, they are recipients of secondhand smoke right in their families. wherein they have no say about that. No? Just imagine a small kid and the father is smoking, and you cannot expect the young kid or the small kid or even the baby to tell his father to stop exposing him to secondhand smoke. Another is the young also are the ones being used for errands to buy cigarettes. So in doing so, the children thinks that this is normal. It's a normal thing. They buy when they go to the store. They saw the barangay captain also smoking, or the tanod also smoking, and then gives it to them. I have also lectured even in one school, wherein the father, when I told them who buys cigarette for their parents, so almost 60% of the student raised their hand, which is exactly close to the national statistics that 50.2% of kids get their secondhand smoke from their families. So I joked that, one time I also joked that who lights the cigarette for their father because maybe their hands are busy or their mother is washing clothes. I was surprised that 40% raised their hands. You just imagine, no, a cigarette being that addictive, and then you let your children light the cigarette for you. And another is cigarette industry, you can find that in Google, coined the kids as replacement smokers. And that is brutal. That's a brutal term. Meaning, it's all about money. So when the older ones gets ill or maybe dies because of smoking, they have this another generation to do their business with. So they don't call them kids. They call them replacement smokers.
Before me end, I would like to know which agencies or churches are involved in your campaign for smoking.
The Seventh-day Adventists are very supportive about it. They have this health doctrine wherein they have trained cessation clinic people, and they set up forums and invite us to it. No, the evangelicals and the Baptists are also supportive, but sometimes it's more on the schools. I could bluntly say that sometimes we are a little timid about it.
Yeah.
When it comes to supporting something which is a social menace. And the Catholics are divided into, maybe some are smokers, some are not. Some priests do that, some don't. But one of the notable things that they did was all churches in the city of Iloilo are non-smoking places.
Oh, yeah.
And another is, one time, they have this Simbang Gabi, Ginaldo, and we were doing operations at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then the Archbishop, when we talked to him, issued a memorandum to his other priests around the city to take up smoking in the homily. So that was what that, no? The Iglesia ni Cristo, I did not see any support.
What
from
about
them.
the other government agencies? I think we used to also involve ourselves in the sports, city sports. Is Mr. Castro still in the city hall?
No, he was replaced.
Okay, yeah. That's why before we also drive on the anti-smoking with sports. So what are the other agencies in the city hall and of course in the national government that support your?
There are many actually. I just came from Tagaytay, and the forum was about the way forward of the Philippines in about anti-smoking. And present were Civil Service Commission, which prohibits smoking in government offices, the Ombudsman, the Office of the President, the CSWD, which is of course in charge of the children, the DepEd, curriculum maybe, and of course making the schools smoke-free, and many other agencies. Actually, all agencies mostly are involved in this, but they have to be in step with what the government wants. At the time, what was amazing about it was with all the agencies, only Carmona, Cavite, and Iloilo City was invited to input about just like what you're asking, no? Na like in your place in Iloilo, what is the DepEd doing?
Yes, like
What
that.
is
Just like
the
that.
yeah, what is the DSWD doing about the smoking thing? So uh, we were honored to do that. And yes, to answer your question, they have to be in step. They have to know their roles, and of course, because we seem to be in the toddler stage when it comes to government agencies, the Food and Drug Administration has this mandate of checking everything. So he has to do. Food and Drug Administration has to do something about the vapes. Has
Yes.
to issue things about that. The DTI has also that mandate. The budget, the Department of Budget and Finance has to do something about the prices of the cigarette.
Okay.
So it compasses many things actually.
To a certain extent, sir, have you gone to some kind of soliciting or partnering with the Centralians? Eventually, our university and our alumni association. Have you gone to seek a partnership with them?
Not yet, no. Of course, I don't know how to go about that. I would love that really for them to support it. The Central Philippine University for so long as I can remember, since I was in kindergarten, and that was a long time ago. CPU has always been an advocate of the smoke-free
Yeah, because we cannot
campus.
smoke here.
Nobody smokes here, except of course on some packets wherein it's of course prohibited, not sanctioned by the university, and Central Philippine University. I involved this campus year 2015
Smoke free.
when the city government hosted the smoke-free workshop for cities of 10 Southeast Asian nations.
Okay.
And they were impressed with this university because, of course, even here in Iloilo, there are universities that allow smoking inside in some places, and Central Philippine University doesn't do that. So if our alumni, I'm not begging, could support some of the way forward things of the city, of the needs of the anti-smoking task force, of course we would really appreciate that. If our nurses, the nursing department would go big into cessation clinics, we would love that. And on material things, of course, the enforcement has also its needs if it comes to that.
Mr. Garingalao, we love to extend this very helpful discussion. But anyway, before we depart, I would like to invite you to our Agri Fair and to also to our audience. This is to inform you that the regional Agri Fair, this is the ninth Agri Fair, organic Agri Fair, will be held again this year at the Promenade, and everyone is invited. You would have exhibits, you would have lectures, and if you want to attend healthy seminars like Dr. Palada also is inviting you to attend the book launching. In the morning, you would open the program for the Agri Fair, and by 2 o'clock, he would launch his book entitled The Miracle Tree, and that is the Moringa plant. It helps also as a capsule for health. So you are invited, and all of our viewers here, you are also invited. And now I would give you the time to say your last greetings and last words for your campaign, sir.
For one, that invite would be good. I would love researches about ceasing to smoke the organic way. Maybe they will come up with that. I've heard that Moringa or malunggay has those properties. Maybe they can go into that. And for our Centralians out there, You have a Centralian here fighting a battle for health for the city of Iloilo. Thank you for this time wherein I can share this with you. Thank you for your prayers. May you support us in this anti-smoking activity program that can enhance and, in fact, be of good health to the sustainable progress of the city of Iloilo.
There you are, televiewers and fellow alumni. I would love to see you again in the next episode of Looking Forward. Thank you so much for your support. I wish we could be together again this opening of lights. That's in the first week of December. I hope you would be attending also our Grand Alumni next year, 2020. And I would love again to invite you to our campus. And for us here at Central Philippine University, we assure you that we are a progressive school and we keep on achieving alumni achievers like Sir Garingalao. So again, I would like to encourage you to look forward to another edition of Looking Forward. This has been your host in behalf of CPU, Mr. Cyrus Natividad. And I would like to also acknowledge our crew and production manager, Ma'am Nestle Taala, and of course our communications director, Reverend Pastor Neil G. Halandon. Thank you so much and good afternoon to all.